Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife video for you. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite knife brands, Hinderer. And as the title implies, mostly we're focusing on, are they worth it? Are they not? These are not inexpensive knives. I'm obviously a huge fan. These are all my knives. I do have 8 Hinderers now. I am kind of addicted to them. But it doesn't mean they're worth it for everybody. I'm going to give you 5 reasons why I do think they're worth the money. I'm going to give you 5 reasons why I don't think they're worth the money, and why I think other people will think they're not worth the money. You're looking at, for a Hinderer, you're looking at between, for a basic one without all the mods and stuff, which we'll talk about a lot, you're looking at between like 400 and 600. So they are not inexpensive knives by any stretch of the imagination. And Rick Hinderer does design some other stuff for some other companies that's also really, really good. So we'll talk about that just briefly. But I don't want it to just be focused on are they worth it or not. I also want to provide a little bit more consumer advice. You guys ask me a lot of questions about Hinderers. It's the most common Instagram DM I get, the most common email I get. Which Hinderer should I buy? Is this a good deal? Stuff like that. I have become kind of the Hinderer guy on YouTube, which is kind of funny. We'll get into in a minute. But so I'm also going to try and tell you like some good places to buy them, the places that I buy them, and places that I recommend, and what I think is the best first Hinderer. So without any further ado, let's get going. I can't get going on this without giving you a bit of my history with Hinderer. So, I was not a Hinderer guy. This is a fairly new thing. I started this channel almost 3 years ago, really close to 3 years ago. And then about a year in, I think I actually said something stupid, like, maybe even less than a year, 6-8 months in. I have no interest in anything that Rick Hinderer designs. They're not my style. They weren't my style back then. And then I got a ZT-0562, Rick Hinderer design, based very heavily on the XM18. We'll talk about that as we go on here. But I really, really liked it. And then I thought, well, maybe I want a quote-unquote real one. I bought a 3-inch XM18. I didn't care for that, but you'll see there's not one of these on the channel. That's one of their designs that just doesn't work for me. It just doesn't fit my hands right. It's just an ergonomic thing. It's nothing against the design. Very, very fine knife. Just my particular hands, it doesn't fit. But then I got that, and then I was off to the races. I could see the difference. Again, we'll talk about that more. And now, yeah, at most 2.5 years on, probably more like 2 years on, now I have 8 of them, and I've owned another 4 or 5 other than this that I have sold. So obviously I'm into them, but let's talk about why I'm into them. Segue into 5 reasons why I do think they are worth the money. First of all, they're timeless designs. Even the newer ones just look kind of timeless, like the Jurassic. I don't happen to have a Jurassic here right now. I will insert a picture right here. I do very much like the Jurassic. Really, really nice knife. But even that, even though it's a newer design, they just look kind of timeless. They are icons. The XM18 is an icon. I did a review for Knives Illustrated of the Jurassic where I mentioned the XM18, and I said, you know, if it was a car, it'd be a 57 Chevy. It's an icon. It's classic. It's timeless. And it's just the quality. They are just extremely well built. Timeless quality. I'm putting this all in one reason of the 5, but they are really, really well done, especially in recent years. It predates me, but I do know in the past, some people had some complaints about the old ones when they only ran on the phosphor bronze washers. Weak detents, things like that. But since they've gone to the tri-way, the quality has been outstanding. I haven't had a bad one. And not all the time when I buy these, people know it's me. One of the places I'm going to recommend to buy them from, they don't know it's me when I buy it. I just buy them and pay full boat like everybody else. So I have not had a bad one since I got into them. They've always centered up perfectly well. They've been great. They just feel really solid. It's just a timeless quality. It's like a really cool old watch. Or like I said, like a 57 Chevy, you know, like a 63 Corvette split window. It's just, they are just iconic designs, especially the XM18, no matter what flavor you're getting it in. It is definitely an icon. The XM24 as well. It's just basically a bigger XM18. Yeah, it's just outstanding. So reason number 2 why I do think they're worth it has to just be the variety. And I'm not just talking the special editions. We're going to mention the special editions here in a moment, but just even the stock options, when they come out, you can get, just your basic stonewash finish is the one you're going to see the most common. This is an XM18 skinny, and it's just the really nice stonewash. It looks great. There's no problem with that at all. I think sometimes people look down at it as like the cheaper finish, but it isn't. They cost the same. It's really just an aesthetic preference. I like the stonewash fine. I do have a couple of them. It's not my favorite finish, but aesthetically sometimes it matches what I want. This is the one I carry the most, and I do like the stonewash on this. It just looks good on this knife, so I like it. My favorite finish would be the working finish. This is an XM18 No Choil Warncliffe. I'm going to try and mention the names of the knives as I do this. I'm not going to run down prices each one. We'll get into that as we go on. But yeah, I do really like the working finish. As the name would imply, it's meant for work. And what I like about it is that it is meant for work. It's already kind of pre-beat up. So if you put a scratch on it, A, probably not going to notice it. B, it just kind of adds to the character. So I really do like the working finish. It's the finish that I recommend the most to people, especially if you really want to use it. And Hinderers are meant to be used. Let's not confuse that. These are not meant to be safe queens. You can modify one up to a point where you want to make it a safe queen, but none of mine are safe queens. All of them get carried and all of them get used because I know that's what they're intended to be. Another finish I really like a lot is the Battle Bronze. This is on a no flipper Fullered Spear DLT exclusive one. I really do like the Battle Bronze a whole lot. It looks gorgeous. This happens to have a Battle Bronze tie scale as well, and it's a great looking finish. And it's kind of the same thing. If you get a battle finish, you get a working finish blade. So again, it's the same kind of thing. It's meant to be beat on, and it's just going to add to the character of it. It's not going to affect it. There's also a Battle Black. I really want a Battle Black one. I almost bought an XM18 Bowie, the new one that came out in the Battle Black, but I missed out on it. If somebody sees one for sale, let me know. I might be tempted by one of those. Battle Black is one I haven't gotten. There's a Battle Blue as well. And then you get some of these special editions we're going to talk about with slightly different finishes. This is kind of the Battle Bronze, but it's a little bit different. This is on one of the vintages with some bronze hardware. So yeah, they do special editions like these vintages, which are really cool. And these are Hinderer special editions. This is 01 tool steel with a walnut scale on an XM24. And it's a fantastic looking knife for sure. I named this one Walt after my grandfather, so of course I'm not going to get rid of it. But beautiful things. Their special editions are great. They do go up in value. It's another thing we're going to talk about. Special editions often do go up in value. I don't care about that with this one because it's named after my grandfather. It's meant to be used. It's 01 tool steel. I use it. And I got a good deal on it. I got it before they went up. They have gone up a little bit now, but yeah, there's that. There's also a lot of knives on here that are not, we're talking about variety that I just don't have. We have the XM18 slip joint. If you live in a place where a locking knife is not allowed, they have that. There's the Eclipse series. I just happen to not have any of those. So you have a wide variety of different knives, different finishes, things like that. And other finishes, you have the standard bronze, which is just lovely looking as well. I do like that. So you have lots of just standard finishes. Lots of standard scales. Tons of different colors in the G10. We have a couple here in the gray and the blue and the red. They all look fantastic. There's a whole bunch. You get oranges, greens, all kinds of different colors. Also, there are, I guess the best way to describe it is factory aftermarket scales. Scales that don't come on a knife, but you can buy later. These two are the best examples of that. They both have to be Warhog scales from DLT Trading. One is a carbon fiber. You can see that Warhog pattern in there. And then the other one is a titanium battle bronze Warthog. You can see it a lot better on this one. I was in the Air Force. My first assignment was with the 23rd Fighter Wing, the Flying Tigers, when they were at Pope Air Force Base. So this means a lot to me. That's why I have two of the Warthog ones, and I have a Warthog pen. I like that Warhog pattern. DLT Trading does as well. They put this on lots of stuff, not just Hinderers. And I think it looks cool. So, yeah, and I like the tie scale ones. And again, that's just, you can totally change the feel of the knife with one of the full titanium ones. Now, the titanium scales are rarer than hen's teeth, I will say. If you get a chance to snap one up and you have the money at that moment, buy it. It's not going to be there tomorrow, probably. I'm still chasing one of the patterned titanium scales. They basically, the diamond pattern, they basically do a titanium in the same pattern as their G10. I've been chasing one of those forever, and God knows if I'll ever get my hands on one. They are not inexpensive. The titanium scale is like a couple $100, so it is a huge upgrade to the price of the knife. You're getting a $425 knife and then putting a $200 scale on it. Now you have an over $600 knife, but it feels like it. I just like the really solid feel of it as well. And then in the variety too, you can also go to the out of production stuff. Sometimes you got to pay extra for it, sometimes not. This is the best example of that I have. This is a full track. They don't make these anymore. Probably not going to. If they do, it's going to be dramatically different because they realize it's much more expensive to make than they thought it was going to be. But it has cool stuff like a tool built into the backspacer that you can just pop out when you want to work on the knife, which is pretty awesome. And yeah, that's the only tool you need to take it apart, which is pretty cool. I do like that. There's lots of cool stuff. There's a little pocket inside this side to hide all your extra washers if you want to use the tri-way pivot and all that, which is another variety thing. I know we're going a lot on this one point, but yeah, they are tri-way pivot. So tri-way pivot means all of them are now. If you get an older one, some of the previous ones, Gen 3, 4, 5, 6, they are not. They just run on Teflon washers. A lot of people didn't like that. So instead of just switching to bearings, they gave you the option. So when you buy a new Hinderer, you come with 2 sets of washers and a set of bearings. You can run it on phosphor bronze washers. You can run on Teflon washers. You can run it on bearings. All these are on bearings except this one. This is on phosphor bronze washers. I actually switched over to do a comparison to the Spartan Harsey. I wanted to put them on an even footing. But you know what? I do like it. I do like the 24 on washers. So you choose your own adventure. Super easy to swap them out once you have the proper tools, which is something we'll talk about in the negatives. But yeah, you get to choose your own adventure that way. So yeah, one of Hinderer's slogans is make it your own, and they freaking mean it. There's also aftermarket parts galore for these. If you can't find what you want with the actual Hinderer brand on them, there's lots of aftermarket parts. I have an XM18 skinny micarta scale coming from Sharp Dress Knives. They just released them because I sent him my scale and said, can you make me one? And now he's patterned them for other people as well. So I do have a micarta scale coming probably for this one. You can get lots of aftermarket scales. Lots of companies make scales for Hinderers. By the way, Sharp Dress Knives also is going to be making some full track scales. So keep an eye out for those. So that is a lengthy number 2. No jokes. Now, as far as the third reason, it kind of dovetails into reason number 2, but it's the dealer exclusives. You get the special editions from Hinderer. You get all this stuff you can customize from Hinderer, but man, they are very accommodating to dealers, such as USA Made Blade, such as DLT Trading I mentioned earlier. This is a DLT Trading mat that we're working off of here. They will do pretty crazy special editions. One of the most common ones you see, DLT does a lot of these no choils. I like the no choil in the XM18. I think it's pretty cool. And this is a dealer exclusive, so they're allowed to reorder them, and they often do. The DLT ones do sometimes come back in stock, which is pretty cool. But yeah, they deleted a choil, which is something that like a lot of like if you go on, I don't have a choil. Here's a choil XM18. If you go on, Blade HQ and they have an exclusive or something, it's a different blade steel, it's different handles. This is like totally different blades that they do specifically just for that company. There's like, this is a good example with this no choil. There's also, this is a USA Made Blade. They don't make this one anymore. This is the half-track Warncliffe. They made a Warncliffe just for USA Made Blade. Like, they didn't make this, and they came up with a whole new blade shape just for USA Made Blade, which is awesome. Their special editions, their dealer exclusives are a lot more exclusive than, a lot of other companies are. And they make them in a pretty significant volume. Hinderers aren't they're hard. You have to act quickly, but it's not one of those knives. If you're not picky about the scale color, which don't be, because you can just get another one. That you can, sometimes they're around for a few days, especially the DLT, the quantities that they get, and USMA blade as well. Usually they're on the site for a few days, a week. It's not something that like, yeah, you should get it quickly, but it's not something you got to like rush and grab immediately. So I like that. I like that usually not only do they do really special dealer specials, they make them in significant numbers, which I think is pretty darn cool. Now, reason number 4, which also it kind of dovetails those first two, resale value. It's pretty darn good on a Hinderer. I mean, you can get even just like a basic XM18. Most basic XM18 you're going to see is, just a regular choiled slicer XM18. And you're going to pay $425. You can carry that thing, use it. As long as you don't abuse it, you can keep it for a year or two, and you can probably sell it for $350, $375. Not bad. You can really get good value out of them, and especially the dealer exclusives. Some of those, you could probably use it for a year and break even. A knife like this, if you bought one of these vintages and you just put it in a drawer and didn't use it for a couple years, wait till they're all gone, you could probably make a profit on it. They have excellent resale value. So yes, they are expensive, but if you do come to a point where you want to sell it, you're probably going to get a good chunk of that money back, a lot more than you're going to get back on a Spyderco or something like that. Unless it's a sprint run, of course, people pay stupid money for those. What's a better example? You're going to get better money back than you get like on a Benchmade or something like that. Now, number 5, I think the other reason why these are worth it, it's kind of a culture, a fraternity. It's buying a Hinderer is kind of like buying a Harley. I'm not into the Harley culture, but it's a good example. It's you're part of the club, and there's lots of great sources, great Facebook page. There's lots of really good hashtags on Instagram and stuff like that. Great Reddit groups and things like that. They're all just Hinderer fans. You don't have to have 8. You don't have to have 45. You can have 1, and you're part of the club. And I think Hinderer does a good job of fostering that, not only by just being pretty cool and coming out with lots of cool stuff. They also come out with lots of cool stuff that's not knives. Like I have 2 Hinderer pens here. This is one of the basic ones. I think these are like $55. The aluminum ones, the Hinderer Investigator pens, they have a big bulky one too. I can't remember what the name of that is. This is a much more expensive one in bronze with the Warhog on it. And they come with cool stickers and things like that. They just do a good job of fostering that community. And there is kind of a culture around them. People trade the parts, because sometimes you modify one and you want to change it, make it look a little bit different. You can trade some parts with somebody instead of not buying them. So it's kind of cool. So I do like that a lot. I like the Hinderer community. Now, let's get into the downside. 5 reasons why they're not worth it. Number 1, Hinderer has designed some knives for some other companies, primarily, most notably, ZT. The ZT Hinderers are really, really nice for sometimes, depending on how you option the knife out, less than half the price. Primary example, the knife that got me into Hinderers, the 0562 tie. This is a $280 knife, and it is, I'm going to say, 80% as good as a real Hinderer for less than 50% of the cost. And that's going to be very compelling to a whole lot of people. And it should be. This is a fantastic knife. 20 CV steel, running on bearings. The ZT Hinderers were running on bearings before Hinderers were. That's why you hear that phrase sometimes, ZT makes a better Hinderer than Hinderer. I don't think that's true anymore. I think it was back in the day, back before they switched to the tri-way pivot. But it isn't anymore, but still, they are fantastic knives. Now, downside of that is they don't do as many as they used to. Hinderer doesn't seem to be doing as many designs for other people as it used to. Like for right now, Zero Tolerance, the only thing they make is this 0562 tie, the 0562 carbon fiber, and the 0393, which is a version of the Eclipse. So yeah, they don't do as many as they used to, but they still do. and you can buy them, and especially the 0393, a lot of the real genuine Hinderer parts switch back and forth. So yeah, it's not like back in the day when Hinderer had a whole bunch of ZT designs. I can't remember all the numbers on them. Somebody will down below, I'm sure, but Rick Hinderer has designed a lot of knives for ZT in the past, and those are really expensive now. The discontinued ZT Hinderers are very expensive, but that is one reason why they're not worth the money, is because the 0562 is still sitting out there. Number 2, proprietary tools. So quasi-proprietary tools, I guess I'm going to say. So you can see the pivot here. It's not normal. You have just a screwdriver over here, and then you have, this little split thing on the other side. There are 2 ways to take care of this. When I only had 1 or 2 Hinderers, I cut a chunk out of a penny and used it to take it apart. It works totally fine. You can do that. The screws are not hex. You do have to have I can't remember what size it is. It's an American size Allen key. You have to have that. Most people do have that or can easily get it, but still, there are some kind of unique quasi-proprietary parts. Once I think I got 4 of them, I did finally go and buy the Hinderer Armorer's tool, which is not cheap. I think this was like $80. But I do like having it. I do use it now. It's got this size bit on it. I think it actually says in there if I can get it out, which I can't right now. It's very hard to get out. But it has the bit for the screws. It's got the proper screwdriver size for the other side of the pivot. And it's got the little tool for that split ring in the middle, whatever you want to call it. It's not a split ring, but yeah, the word escapes me, but you know what I mean. So proprietary tools kind of suck. You might have to run to the hardware store and get some parts and, deface a piece of US currency in order to get yours apart when you first get it. But once you have enough of them, go with that. The other downside to the proprietary tools is sometimes you do want to use a copper coin, use a penny, because like, for example, this is one of mine is scratched, the pivot. This is a PVD coated pivot screw, and yeah, it scratched because I used that and it's still really hard steel. I should have just used a penny and it probably wouldn't have scratched it. So keep that in mind. Number 3 reason why I think they might not be worth the money is, I hate to bring up the elephant in the room or the elephant on the planet, China. A lot of Chinese companies are making very Hinderer-esque knives now. Not saying they look the same, but that same kind of heavy duty, overbuilt feeling knives. This is a perfect example. This is the WE Knives Malice. This was actually designed. Ferrum Forge said they told Ferrum Forge, we want you to design a folder that feels like a big American folder. And they did. And it's a lot less expensive. I think this is like $283. So again, 0562 money. And again, 20 CV steel, this lovely flame anno, stuff like that. Yeah, are they as customizable? Do they have as much personality? No, to me, but if you're just comparing on paper, they bring up another WE, but the WE Gava, also full titanium, that kind of stuff. It's definitely, there are some arguments to be made for some Chinese knives. There's even cheaper stuff than that, that we could argue it has that same kind of heavy duty, overbuilt personality. As a Hinderer. I don't think it has as much personality as a Hinderer, but you understand what I mean. That same kind of intent, that same kind of feel. So number 3 would be China. Number 4, not just China. In America, there are companies that are this kind of largish knife, I feel like, is really having a moment. I really feel like a lot of those are coming back, a lot of hard use knives, whether it's what's going on in the world or whatever, but the kind of quote-unquote hard-use folder, which a lot of people say, that doesn't exist, buy a fixed blade. All right, but the hard-use folder thing is kind of coming back. Other companies are doing a lot of them. 2 that come to mind. The Spartan Harsey folder, which is not new, but it's kind of had a bit of a resurgence, especially since they switched to S45 yen. This is an older one in S35, but this is kind of having a moment. Another knife that's absolutely having a moment, and it's going to be on everybody's top 10 of the year list, the Demko 8020. Very kind of Hinderer-esque in its purpose. I'm not saying it's the way it looks like it, but in its purpose, in its feel, in its size, in its heft, Also very kind of Hinderer-esque. There's just other competition out there for the same money. Both of these are, well, this is $460, this is $450. This is the machine ground one, not the custom, but yeah, about that same price range. There are other options out there, still both made in the US. So yeah, fourth reason would just be that there's a lot of competition out there. Fifth reason, this is the reason that some people love Hinderers. It's the reason why some people hate them. And the chase. Like I said, when they do these dealer exclusives, they do produce large numbers of them. Usually, it's usually okay to wait a couple days to get one. If you miss out for a couple days, you can usually still get one, but not always. Sometimes they are gone in an instant. It depends on how popular that particular one is. I know that the half-track Warncliffe did not last long at all. Like, he got it in a few batches, so it felt like it. But those batches came out, they came in, they went out. They came in, they went out the next day. So he'd get like 10, they'd be gone the next day, get 10, gone the next day. Kind of how it went. Same with this. This is a COVID edition, which is pretty cool. They did this. This was actually put together by Rick Hinderer during the COVID crisis, which I think is awesome. He was the only one allowed to be in the building, so he built this himself. It has a card saying assembled by Rick Hinderer. I had COVID, so this means a lot to me. This one will never go away. And it's got the Sasquatch from USMA Blade on it as well. But yeah, USMA Blade only got these. But yeah, these were like, again, same thing. Get a few, gone the next day. Get a few, gone the next day. Some of them last a bit longer, especially the DLT stuff, but not always. And for some people, that's why they love Hinderers. They love that thrill of the chase. I hate the thrill of the chase. With Hinderers, I do it. Luckily, fortunately, with Hinderers, I usually kind of know, at least a week or two in advance. I have a couple of sources where I kind of know what's coming. So I don't usually miss out. But there are some brands that I will not buy because I hate the chase. GEC traditionals. I would love to have one, but man, I missed out on so many that the chase has just made me so mad that I don't even try anymore. So there are several knives like that. It's just, sometimes you just get so frustrated to the point that even though you like the company, you like the product, you're like, man, I'm sick of jumping through hoops to get one. And occasionally with the Hinderer, occasionally there are some hoops. So keep that in mind. Now, that is the 5 reasons to buy, the 5 reasons not to buy. Let's say after all that, you really want one. You've never had a Hinderer. Brian, which one should I get? Well, I have 2 recommendations. First of all, would be one that I don't have at the moment, the Jurassic. Again, stick that picture in. Really, really cool knife. I think it's a bit more EDC friendly than an XM18, than a standard XM18 anyway, the standard thickness XM18. But they made them. They're gone. They are coming back before the end of the year. Rick just told me that, like, in public, so it wasn't. I'm not spilling secrets, but by the end of the year, there's gonna be another run of Jurassics, and you can bet your sweet Bippy I'm gonna get another one because I sold mine and I regret it. I don't know if it's the same blade shape or whatever. Usually he does a different blade, so we will see. But the one that I would recommend, and I think it's something that Hinderer's actually going all in on because they come out with a whole bunch of variants of this model this year, will be the XM18 Skinny. So this is a standard thickness XM18. This is a skinny. You can see they're a little bit more slender. And then just for giggles, we're going to pull it up next to the 0562 as well. So you can see it's kind of between the widths, maybe just a little bit slimmer even than an 0562. So it's a little bit slimmer than the 0562 tie. So if you like that one, oops, sorry, bumped the camera. It's just a little bit slimmer than that. I think this is probably the best beginner Hinderer. Used to be the downside to the skinny was that you couldn't get as many parts, but now you can. Like I said, there's even aftermarket scales coming out for it. And they've done so many XM18 skinny variants lately that you can get the parts now to modify it just as much as any other XM18, which I think is awesome. This happens to be the Skinny Skinner COVID edition. Like I said, one of the other unique blade shapes they did just for USMA Blade. Keep talking about that. Like, nobody else got this. They did a whole different blade shape. Like, nobody does that. But I really think the Skinny is easier to carry. It's probably going to feel more like the knife that you're used to having. It still feels just as heavy duty as a regular thickness XM18, but it's just skinnier and easier to carry. I like the Skinny a lot. It's probably my favorite one. Like I said, this is the XM18 that I carry the most by far. The Hinderer I carry the most by far. This is a DLT Trading no choil, an M390. And again, it was not any more expensive than any other XM18. All these exclusives and stuff, they don't charge a ton extra for. They're usually all exactly the same price. They're just more limited quantities. But yeah, I love this one a lot. And I like the Skinny. I like the way it feels in the hand just as well as I do the XM18. I mean, the XM18, the full-size XM18 maybe fills my hand a little bit better, but it's not enough to matter. I would recommend for your first Hinderer, get a Jurassic or get an XM18 Skinny. That would be what I would recommend. Where would I recommend that you buy them from? Probably no surprise watching this video. First up would be USA Made Blade. I love these guys. Witty down there, Scott, is an awesome guy. They have really cool special editions and everything, and they do cool stuff like this really cool coin. They also make giant stickers that for some reason I couldn't find one of them. I must have given them all away to you guys or stuck them on my truck, so I don't have one. But yeah, great company out of North Carolina and South Carolina. North Carolina, one of the Carolinas. I get them both confused. But anyway, great place. North Carolina, I'm sure now. USMAblade.com always has cool stuff in, and again, great exclusives and just the best people to deal with. And they're really funny guys to boot. If you want to have a good time and sit around, and always Hinderer knives always come up if you're a Hinderer fan and you just want to have a good time on a Thursday night at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern, jump on Instagram, watch their live show. It's a lot of fun. It ain't for children, but it's a lot of fun. I'm usually on there. If I'm awake, I'm almost always on it. It's always a good time. I really do enjoy it. Second of all would be, I covered up again, a DLT Trading. You've heard me mention them a lot. Like I said, they made this thing that I'm on. They have probably more Hinderers than anybody, and they have more parts than anybody, and they do a whole lot of these special editions and stuff. It is a bit more of a big store, but they seem like good people too. When I buy from DLT, I pay 100% full boat. It's just, they don't know who I am at all. I just pop on and buy them. If it's one that I really want, I'll get it from DLT. Their shipping's good, all that stuff. So yeah, I'd recommend USMAblade.com or DLTtrading.com if you want to go to buy a Hinderer. So I think that wraps it up. I'm not quite sure how long this video is going to be after I stitch everything together. Maybe doing this on a premiere. I'm sure I will be probably tonight. So hopefully I've been chatting with you guys and you've had a good time. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this and found it informative. It's just trying to answer a lot of questions that I get about Hinderers. I tried to organize it. I actually made notes so I wasn't rambly, but I think I was probably rambly anyway, like I am right now. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've been Brian. Have a good one.